talk about those that you can do, okay? So first, eat more fruits and vegetables. That's the first goal that I'd probably recommend anybody try to work toward because only 1 in 10 Americans is eating enough fruits and vegetables each day. Fruits and vegetables can be fresh, canned, frozen, or dried. All of them count and all of them are healthy in my book. So benefits of fruits and vegetables. Who doesn't know that fruits and vegetables are good for us? But I think the big ticket for why they're healthy is they can really decrease our risk for chronic diseases such as heart disease, stroke, and certain cancers. Up on the screen here, I have a picture of My Plate. Some of you may be familiar with this. It replaced the food pyramid a few years ago. And My Plate is a visual representation of the 5 major food groups. It demonstrates how they can all fit together on one plate, not that they have to all be on the plate or even at each meal. But one of the biggest takeaways of My Plate is making half of your plate fruits and vegetables. And when you're trying to say, hey, how can I eat more fruits and vegetables? This is something you can do, visually seeing that you have half of your plate as fruits and vegetables. So this is my favorite takeaway from My Plate, and that's because fruits and vegetables provide vitamins, phytonutrients, minerals, as well as some fiber and hydration. Making sure you're striving to have half your plate be either fruits or vegetables or both is a great way to make sure you're having a healthy diet. So half your plate, that's a good goal. If this doesn't quite work for you, you can try to hit the recommended amounts of fruits and vegetables. So adults need between 1.5 to 2.5 cups of fruit every day, depending on your size and your body size, body type, and lifestyle. And then adults also need between 2.5 to 4 cups of vegetables per day, depending on your height, your weight, your body size, and energy needs. So really we're aiming for at least 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit, and then at least 2.5 cups of vegetables per day, and a little bit more depending on you individually. So how you can do that, I mentioned making half your plate fruits and vegetables. So a smart goal would be at dinner every night from Monday through Friday, I will make half of my dinner plate vegetables. Okay. That's a very good smart goal. You know exactly what you're doing. You're not completely uprooting everything you're doing. You're just making a small tweak to that dinner meal. Or maybe you do a food journal next week to see where you even are with fruit and veggie consumption. So you take the time, log it in an app, or just write it on a piece of paper and actually see how many fruits and vegetables you're eating. Are you eating any? So you could always start with just having a pulse check, see where you are, and then increase by a half a cup. Maybe you add a half a cup of applesauce to your oatmeal every day. That's one of my favorite ways to add in a fruit is throwing it into my oatmeal, whether it's fresh or dried or canned like an applesauce. And then also you can try to add in an extra cup or an extra scoop with your dinner. So maybe you say, Karina, I don't want to add in an extra fruit. I can't find the time, or I'm not hungry to throw it in as an extra snack. That's totally fine. Something you can do is whatever you're currently doing. So if you always have a vegetable with dinner, what can you do to make it an extra scoop? Make that couple pieces of broccoli actually turn into a cup and a half of broccoli on your plate. You might need to buy an extra bag of frozen veggies to help accommodate that, but you're still sticking with your normal routine. Okay. Now, my next recommended goal is to eat more whole grains. So let me explain what a whole grain is. It's essentially the grain kept intact. Up on the screen, I have a picture of a grain kernel. And so a whole grain is everything still together. And if you're going to eat a whole grain product, they're going to keep it intact, smush it up, and turn it into whatever they need it to be. Whole wheat flour, whole wheat bread, something like that. what we want to do is have more whole grains. Things that are not whole grain are called refined grains. And what they do is they strip away that outer layer, the bran, and many times the germ, and they contain the fiber and a little bit of protein. And so they strip those away and they keep that yummy, fluffy middle, the endosperm. And that's what they use to make white bread or, white flour, things like that. It is recommended that you make half of the grains that you eat whole grains. So I also have a list on the screen of different types of grains that come in whole grain options. So all of these should be pretty accessible at a standard food store. I know ShopRite, Giant, Wegmans, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, wherever you end up going, they're going to have lots of these options for you. Some of my intro whole grains would be choosing a whole wheat bread instead of a white bread. The other one would be, quinoa is pretty popular. That's a whole grain. Quinoa, just so you know, is a little bit less starchy than a rice. So I don't think it's a perfect comparison if you're just going to take your rice out and throw in a quinoa, FYI. But a good substitute if you wanted to mix in some more whole grains, a farro I think is a good, or bulgur could be a good swap if you wanted to add in place of your rice, or you're finding a new recipe. You want to try those. They're more comparable to a rice. So with that, whole grains are so important for us because they give us fiber, protein, vitamins, and minerals. I mentioned trying to add a few into your regular diet, maybe mixing things up a little bit by subbing out different grains to see how you like them cooked. So I mentioned switching to a whole wheat bread or a whole wheat pasta, and maybe you say, Corina, I don't want to switch to a whole wheat pasta. I don't like how it tastes. I want my regular pasta. That's perfectly fine. The goal is to get half of your grains be whole grains. So if you're not going to switch over your white bread or your white pasta, adding in oatmeal in the morning, adding in other types of grains throughout the week is going to help you hit that half goal. So our whole grains are great. They're going to give us the main source of fiber for our body, typically comes from our grains that we eat. And, fiber is just so important for our body. It keeps our bowels regular. It's also going to, help improve your cholesterol levels, keep your blood sugar steady, keep you fuller for longer. So this is a great one. If you have health conditions that you're trying to work on this year, maybe you have high cholesterol or issues with blood sugar, whether it's pre-diabetes or diabetes, focusing on getting whole grains to increase your fiber can really help you with that. So my next one is to reduce your added sugar. The Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends no more than 10% of our calories come from added sugar. For those of you eating about 2,000 calories per day, that is 50 grams. So that's, a decent amount, 50 grams of added sugar. Okay. However, the American Heart Association recommends not more than 6% of your calories come from added sugar, or as shown on the screen, about 36 grams for men and 25 grams for women. So added sugar is in a lot of products nowadays to make things taste better, but more specifically, you're going to find them in soft drinks such as soda, sweetened tea, coffees, energy drinks, fruit drinks, candy, ice cream, sweetened yogurts, flavored or sweetened milk, and breakfast cereals, breakfast bars. Those are kind of the big areas we're going to find a lot of added sugar. But really any snack food might have some added sugar. And, even if you're making something, like if you're making your oatmeal in the morning, anytime you put honey into your oatmeal that you're making, that's considered added sugar. To help define added sugar a little bit more, I have a nutrition facts label up on the screen with the added sugar section circled in red. So what you're going to do is take a look at the nutrition facts label on any packaged product that you purchase. The trickiest part is going to be the serving size. The serving size is different for every product you buy. In the example, this serving size is 8 fluid ounces. If you have 8 fluid ounces, then all the information below that is correct. If you have 10 fluid ounces, if you have 4 cups of whatever this product is, you need to increase all of that information on your own. So serving size is only really important for understanding what these numbers are equivalent to. So in the example on the screen, you're going to look down under total carbohydrate. There is a section for includes however many added sugar. This says 23 grams of added sugar. So if we are, looking to stay under 50, this product might fit into our overall day. But if we're really trying to do well and reduce our added sugar, this is going to take up a big chunk of what we're consuming in a day. So we might want to look for a different product that has less added sugar, or be more mindful with the amount of added sugar that we have in the rest of our food. All this, talk about added sugar when we are, choosing products that are good. A granola bar with less than 10 grams of added sugar, or like a snack with less than 10 grams of added sugar, can be a good kind of rule of thumb, because there are some benefits to added sugar, like especially if you're eating a nutrient-dense food. One example that I like to give is yogurt. So I personally don't enjoy eating plain Greek yogurt. It tastes a little too tangy for me. But yogurt's going to give me calcium, probiotics, and protein. So having added sugar in my yogurt is going to increase my chances of having that nutrient-dense food. And so that's a place where having added sugar in your food can actually help you boost nutrition. We just want to be mindful as to how much we're consuming total throughout the day. Another resolution that you might be looking for is to drink more water. I feel like everybody wants to drink more water, just like everybody wants to be healthy. And this one is actually very straightforward, right? Just drink more water. Okay, so some SMART goals could include getting one of those cool water bottles that has, your time limit goals on the side of it. Drink this by 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m. type of thing. It could be to fill up your water bottle 3 times a day while you're at work. That's my personal water goal that I work on all the time. It could also be as simple as I'm going to add a half of cup of water when I take my medications or vitamins in the morning. So some people drink a full glass of water with their medication. That's wonderful. Some people just take a few sips until their medication or vitamins are consumed. So what you can do is actually increase the amount that you're having in that one small moment in time, and you're going to find that you're increasing your water intake without changing your whole day. That's one option. Additionally, I like to have people bring a water bottle into the car, and however much you feel comfortable filling it up. If you have a commute to work and you're like, how am I going to add water in, throughout the day? I feel like I'm not really thirsty. Well, when you get into your car, if you bring a water bottle with however many ounces you think is necessary, drink that water bottle before you leave your car to walk into work. So every morning, maybe you're having a half a cup or a full cup on the way to work. And then same thing, you can fill it up on your way home and drink it before you get home. The perk of that is you're walking in and there should be a bathroom at your work, and you're walking into your house and there should be a bathroom at your house. So if you're concerned about, your commute and holding your bladder, that chunk of time tends to be a pretty safe one. So if you want to exercise more, This is always a goal of mine to exercise more. I have two things that can help you do that. Two ways to take a look at this exercise concept. So your first one is going to try to increase your time. Okay. Physical activity recommendations are up on the screen. They're about 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity and 2 days of strength training per week. So that's both of those there. So maybe you don't currently exercise at all. You should start small. Take a 5-10 minute walk on your lunch twice per week. If you have a 30-minute lunch break, if you just stand up, leave your desk and start walking for 5 minutes, maybe it's in the hallway, maybe you can do a couple stairs, get your body moving, and then come and sit back down in the break room and sit down for your lunch for 25 minutes. You just increase your physical activity by 5 minutes while still having some time to actually eat your meal. Maybe you want to go to the gym, something you could to increase your time. Maybe you do currently exercise, but you have trouble going to the gym, or you do enjoy exercise, you have trouble getting there. A smart goal for you could be when I clock out at work, I will change into my workout clothes before going to my car to ensure that I go to the gym on the way home. That's one option for you. So when we talk about increasing our time, you want to start small, just do a couple minutes at a time, because they do all add up. And what we want to do is try to get that moderate intensity aerobic activity. So we're going to be doing that by biking, by swimming, by walking a brisk walk, playing basketball, even yard work. So springtime's coming up, the raking that you do, the lifting and moving any plants, that can all add towards your time. When you're talking about moderate intensity, whatever it is, whatever gets your heart going is what we're aiming for. So to know if you're hitting that moderate intensity aerobic activity, I have the talk test. It's also shown on the screen. So light activity is going to be you can talk, you can sing. One example of this is my dog is a sniffer. So we, walk 2 feet and he stops and sniffs, and we walk 2 feet and he stops and sniffs something else. So I can never really get my heart rate up when I'm walking him. This is going to be light activity. Next is moderate. This is where your 150 should be coming from. So 150 minutes is going to be you can talk, but you can't sing. So something that I personally like to do is go for a walk on my lunch break, and I will call my aunt, call my grandmother, call whoever, whose lunch lines up with mine. And I walk, and I actually use that phone call as a way to ensure that I'm hitting that moderate zone. So you want to be able to talk, you can hold a conversation. Maybe you're not speaking like I am for 30 minutes straight, but you're able to hold a conversation. That's how you know you're right where you need to be. I'm not able to sing to them. I can't, belt out any music while I'm walking because I'm at a decent pace where talking is possible. Maybe I have a couple breaths in between like I do now, but I'm not able to sing. And then vigorous activity is where you're having difficulty talking. So maybe, you are jogging, maybe you're like going uphill, maybe you're biking or swimming or whatever, but you're not able to talk. You're like, okay, and now I'm doing that would count as vigorous. And so there is a recommendation for vigorous if you do exercise in a vigorous way. It's 75 minutes per week, just so you know. But I do like the 150 because it includes so many different things that can get you in that moderate zone. In addition to increasing your time, there's muscle strengthening activities. So this is going to be things that help you build muscle. Tell your body that you're using them. So if you are trying to lose weight, by doing strength training, you're saying, hey, yes, I want to lose weight, but I need to pull it from other areas because I'm using my muscles. So I don't want to lose weight in my muscle. I want to lose it in a different area. So what that can be is just body weight type things. So you can see there's weightlifting, you can do just regular squats, you can do push-ups, all sorts of things where you're focusing um, on your muscles. And we want to do that 2 days a week, and we want to do that on different days. So if you do a full body strength training exercise, we want to give it a day break before we do that again, essentially. If you are building your workout and you love strength training, maybe this is nothing new to you, what we would say is don't do the same muscle group 2 days in a row. Great. And joyful movement. So if you are working to exercise more, maybe you don't know where to start, joyful movement is, I think, the best way to go, personally. So joyful movement is this concept that you are moving your body in a way that doesn't feel stressful, that you're not nervous to do, you're not dreading, you actually almost look forward to it. And at the very least, you're looking forward to how you feel afterwards. It's something that, you never have trouble saying yes to. So joyful movement is going to be different for everybody. People like yoga, swimming, group activities. I personally like walking and hiking. I have no issues doing either of those things. But if you ask me to turn that walk into a jog, or if you ask me to, do any other type of like strengthening class, that's going to be something I have to actively make myself do. It's not a joyful thing for me. But walking, I'm always up for that, and I'm always up for a nice hike to look around in nature. So one of your SMART goals, if you don't quite know what your joyful movement is, maybe you're doing a workout you've been doing for a long time and you're doing it because you know that's good for you. But it could be good to find a joyful movement as a way to add in more physical activity. So one SMART goal could be, I will try a new type of movement every week from now until the end of February. Then I will determine my joyful movement and make a new SMART goal to set how often I will do my joyful movement. Joyful movement is really just a really great concept if you're new to exercise, if you've hit a lull, if you ever heard yourself say, oh, I used to love going to Zumba or the aerobics class. I used to love doing that. That could be your cue that, maybe life got in the way, circumstances got in the way, but that memory of you enjoying going to those classes, that might be your cue to start that back up again as a way to exercise more. Great. So I do want to, just kind of come back to SMART goals to review whatever you guys decide to do for your New Year's resolution. Try to make sure you have SMART goals built in. Specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant, as well as time-bound. So this, I teach a few different courses and classes each year, and SMART goals is something that really helps people. One great thing about SMART goals is that if you happen to find that this goal doesn't work for you, it is so specific that you're able to even find out where in your SMART goal things went awry. So if you really are trying to increase the amount of fruit you eat by 1 cup per day, and that's, your SMART goal would be I'm going to add in an apple, a decent sized apple is a full cup serving. After work, on my way home, I'll eat my apple in the car. and I'm going to do that Monday through Friday while I am on my way home from work. If you are, using a Smart Goal, you can say, you know what? I don't enjoy apples that much. Maybe the apple was the issue and I can change my fruit. Or maybe apples get too bruised when they stay in my lunch bag all day. So maybe you want to switch to, um, you know, grapes or a different type of fruit that you can put into a container that won't get bumped and bruised. Bananas are typically good for on the way to work, but if you have to store it in your lunch bag to eat it on the way home, they tend to get a little iffy with all the motion. So as you're going through thinking about your goals and whatever they are, SMART goals are a great way to achieve them. It's also a great way to see where you might need a little bit more work to set a better SMART goal next time. You can try to do a time limit of a month. You can do a time limit of a week, just like a trial to see how that goes. So thank you all so much for listening. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'd love to hear any questions you have for me.
Okay, it looks like we have a few questions. Our first question is from the Q&A section. Is brown rice a whole grain? Did you answer this?
No, I didn't answer this, but brown rice is a whole grain, yes. Let me pull up my slide here. So these up on the screen are showing all the different types of grains that can be whole grain. So rice can be a whole grain and it's considered a whole grain when it's brown rice. If you're culturally tied to white rice, I would not recommend switching over to brown rice. I would say, where else can you add a whole grain?
Right. And our next question is, what is the current recommendation for how many cups we are supposed to drink? Wasn't it 8 glasses before?
Yeah, so your hydration amount is going to be a little bit different based on your physical activity, your body size and lifestyle, as well as age and health conditions. So one very general rule of thumb, this is not prescriptive, is going to be that if you are consuming hydrating foods, if you're having fruits and vegetables, things like soups, even like smoothies, regularly, then we're going to look for about 9 cups a day for women, and then maybe 11 to 12 cups a day for men of fluid, not specifically water. So fluid your tea could count, um, your juice you drink, your water, your seltzer water, like all these things can count toward that fluid goal. But again, it is going to be different based on you individually. One small thing you can do to test your hydration is to check the color of your urine. So we want to be a pale yellow. If it's a darker yellow, then it might be time to take a couple sips, and you don't need to be clear all the time. So a nice pale yellow is just one indicator. Our urine color changes for so many reasons, medications, health conditions. But if you're like, am I really kind of doing this? I feel like I'm hitting a decent number of fluid ounces per day. That could be one indicator to see how you're doing.
And there was you sort of covered one of these questions, but somebody asked about sparkling water, whether that counts, as well as tea and coffee. And there seemed to be some discussion about whether these are dehydrating with caffeine.
Yeah, that's a great question. So sparkling water still counts as a water. You're going to want to check and make sure that there's not any added sugars in that sparkling water. But like the seltzer waters are all considered, counting toward your hydration. When it comes to coffee and tea, things that are diuretics, yes, it can cause you to lose fluid when you drink those things. However, studies show that if you're having a consistent amount of caffeine during the same time every day, so if you're like, I have one 8-ounce cup of coffee every day at home, that's going to affect your hydration a little bit less. Like that's not going to dehydrate you as much as that bonus caffeine you're having in the afternoon. So it is going to count towards your fluid intake, though. It does count towards your fluid intake, even though it can, be a diuretic. I hope that answers the question.
Well, it certainly answered my question. I was wondering about that as well.
Mhm.
Let's see. Somebody's just confirming water, literal cups, then 9 cups. Um, Another question, are probiotics added to yogurt before or after yogurt is pasteurized? If after, doesn't the heat destroy the probiotics?
That's a great question. I honestly don't have that answer off the top of my head. I apologize. But the culturing process of it um, allows for those probiotics. So my thought would be they would use a pasteurized product and then have, that's just my thought process, but I unfortunately I don't have that information. But that's an excellent question.
Somebody asked, do you do consults or counseling independently?
I love that question. So, unfortunately, I don't do one-on-one counseling. I do teach Core 4, which is a weight management nutrition education course at Capital Health. It's a 12-week program. It's not through insurance. You have to pay out of pocket, and we run it a few times a year. So we're in a class right now. Our next class might be over the summer, but most likely will be starting in the fall. So you can go to Capital Health's website around the fall, like Labor Day time, to get more information about that. But we do have an outpatient dietitian who is absolutely wonderful at Capital Health. She does in-person and telehealth, but you do need a referral from a Capital Health physician to see her.
Well, that's great to know. We had one in the question and answers section. Do you recommend eating before working out or afterwards?
Yeah, so that's going to depend on how intense your workout is. So if you're just, doing like a 30-minute walk, I don't think you need to eat beforehand. But if you're a person who does a pretty intense workout, maybe at least for an hour, having something beforehand, I think is really important for your body to have the fuel it needs to kind of get going. This is not my area of expertise, exercise, um, nutrition, but that I would say, how intense is your workout? If it is pretty intense, having something even small beforehand can be beneficial. For eating afterwards, I always like to promote having something with carbs and protein to help you replenish. And that doesn't have to be immediately after. It can be within like an hour or two after your workout.
There was an interesting question. What foods cause your body to get achy and sore?
So if you have some sort of intolerance or GI disease or condition, then specific foods might be affecting your body. However, there's not one specific food that would necessarily cause that unless you have an allergy, intolerance, or GI condition, from my understanding.
There's one about grains again. Which of the whole grains contain the least carbohydrates per serving?
That's a great question. So I don't have that off the top of my head, but I know that quinoa is a little bit lower in carbohydrates. Um, teff is probably lower in carbohydrates. They're a little bit the ones that are a little seedier are going to be lower in carbohydrates. Farro is going to be a little higher in carbs. Um, rice and wheat will be higher in carbs. Bulgur is a little higher in carbs. Um, but what I'd say is if you're trying to reduce the carbohydrates you consume, um, be mindful not to go too low. Every cell in our body needs carbohydrates. Um, so it's okay to be mindful of your carbohydrates, especially if you have blood sugar control on your brain, but try not to go too low because your body does need them.
It looks like we have a lot of questions this session, so that's great. But
Oh, that's really good.
there's a small, I suppose, jokey question. What about wine? Does that count as fluid intake? LOL.
I guess so. Definitely not dietitian recommended to count towards your fluid intake, but it's still a fluid. So my thought process is maybe. It's probably the best answer I can give you is maybe.
That's good. Um, Another grain question. What whole grains do not contain gluten?
Gluten. So I don't have that list off the top of my head, unfortunately. There are a decent amount of grains that do not contain gluten. Rice is a common one. Um, hmm, I'm trying to think what else. Oats. Oats don't contain gluten, but they can be processed with things that have gluten. So you want to make sure that you see the little G symbol, the gluten-free symbol on any of your grains. If you do have questions about gluten-free specifically, um, I'd probably point you to trying to think like the celiac, um, the National Association for Celiac Disease. I believe they have a website, and they would be able to tell you like more like a specific list. Um, because that is a very like strict policy. People who have celiac disease cannot have any gluten. But really any like website that's a .gov, so the National Institute of Health, the USDA, the FDA, the CDC, as well as I mentioned myplate.gov. Getting information from those resources is going to be a reliable source for you.
Someone commented that one of their relatives is gluten-free and that they eat corn, oats, rice, and spelt.
Great.
Mhm. Um, and I think this is the final question for now. We'll see if any more come in. Can you recommend any good nutrition books to read?
Hmm. That's a tough one. I think nutrition is so individualized. The way that registered dietitians approach nutrition should be um, based on you as a person. So, books that I'd recommend, the only one that I'd probably say is a good general book for everybody to take a look at would be the Intuitive Eating book. Um, so, intuitive eating is that a concept of eating, a philosophy of eating that helps you take into account your internal cues, external cues, your history, emotions, and it really works on your relationship with food. It's not about weight loss or anything, but I think it can have good insight as to what's influencing the food choices that you have. For um, with that said, I don't think intuitive eating is a concept that everybody has the luxury to, live by, work by, whatever. But I think addressing your relationship with food, however you decide to do that, intuitive eating can help you kind of navigate that.
And sorry, was that a specific text, or would you happen to know an author who?
Oh, yeah, it is. The book is called Intuitive Eating. It's Intuitive Eating by Evelyn um, Tribiol and Elise Reich. Um, They have a couple, it first came out, I believe in the 90s, and they have done multiple revisions. They also have a couple different workbook. I use the workbook in my Core 4 class, but the book itself is quite dense.
All right, that's good to know. I always ask because as a librarian, I'm interested. I was like, people are coming to library programming. They would like to know the name of the book and the author.
Yeah, thank you for that.
And it looks like that's all of our questions for now. We're a little early, so that is great. Some people are thanking you. Thanks. Some people need to hear this and more. And thanking you for your presentation, which is a really great presentation. Let's see. Something else. Mhm. Yeah, looks like all the questions. Thanks to everyone who attended. Thanks to Karina for a wonderful presentation. Do you have any last minute remarks or information you'd like to share, maybe about an organization or anything about the content of your slides?
Yes, so if you do have any, questions about the material I presented, anything that's sent over to you, if you could send that to me, I'll try to answer them the best I can. I always recommend seeing a registered dietitian for any nutrition advice that you're looking to do. You want somebody with credentials when it comes to talking about food and nutrition. Capital Health is ever expanding, and we are always looking for more ways to serve our populations. If you guys, ever have any issues, Capital Health, I'm sure, has a plethora of physicians and care providers and even dietitians who can help you through whatever you're going through.
Right, and I think somebody said sides, but I think they're asking for slides. Would you be able to make the slides available, or is that just something you don't want to do?
Yeah, so we don't typically make our slides available. Is there like a specific, I mean, they're just photos. Is there a specific slide you're looking for?
There's nothing in the chat, but this this presentation has been recorded, and so you'll be able to access it after the session. Not as soon as we end it, hopefully in the next couple of days. And so all the slides, I think, except for maybe the first two where you just sort of talking, I missed a few minutes. I was puttering around trying to get all the links up. Very sorry about that. But most of it, about 10 minutes on, are available or will be available on our website and also on the library's YouTube page. Okay, and yeah, that's it. A reminder to our audience that you'll be prompted to fill out a survey after exiting out of the Zoom. Please do so. We really appreciate your feedback, and we do incorporate it into future programming. And that seems to be it. Thank you so much, Corina, and have a great afternoon, everyone. This concludes today's session.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good one. Oh, somebody asked for the Capitol Health website. I'll do that later.
Okay, thank you. I know, I'm just looking to see if anybody else.
Sure. Website. All right, I'm going to end the webinar now.
Great.
Any questions, they can email to us or email to you.
Wonderful. That sounds great. Thank you so much.
No worries. Bye-bye. Bye.